Mage-Flow, Microsoft's 4 billion parameter image model, put to the test on a single desktop GPU. So what exactly is Mage-Flow? At its core sits a 4 billion parameter dual-stream multimodal diffusion transformer, paired with Mage-VAE, a custom codec that compresses images into a 128-channel latent space at 16 times downsampling. Prompts are encoded by QWEN3VL, and the whole stack is trained with rectified flow matching. The family ships 6 checkpoints: base, RL aligned, and a 4-step turbo distillation for both text-to-image generation and instruction-based editing.
What makes it different from other compact models? 3 design choices. First, native resolution packing. Samples at completely different resolutions are concatenated into one variable length sequence and denoised in a single transformer forward per step. Second, classifier-free guidance is fused, so the conditional and unconditional passes share one kernel launch. Third, a single checkpoint natively covers 512 to 2048 pixels at any aspect ratio. And every generation passes a mandatory content policy gate and carries an invisible Gaussian shading watermark. Part 1. Text to image. We ran 10 very different prompt styles, from portraits to architecture diagrams, through all 3 variants. Base at 30 steps, RL aligned at 20, and turbo at just 4. Same seed, same prompt, side by side. Let's walk the gallery. First, a studio portrait, an elderly fisherman, Rembrandt lighting, 85mm look. All 3 variants nail it. Skin texture, beard detail, and the dramatic sidelight are genuinely photographic. Turbo's 4-step result is nearly indistinguishable from base at 30 steps, and it landed in 1.2 seconds. For portraits, this 4 billion parameter model punches far above its weight. A dew-covered spiderweb at sunrise. This is a hard macro shot, and all 3 deliver convincing bokeh, backlit dewdrops, and believable web geometry. Amusingly, Turbo is the only one that added an actual spider at the center. Fine detail like the beading on each strand holds up on close inspection. No meaningful quality gap between 30 steps and 4. Now, text rendering inside a photo. The sign should read Mage Coffee in hand-painted gold letters. All 3 spell it perfectly, with clean letter forms and a warm, believable storefront around it. Short display text is clearly a strength. Hold that thought, though, because longer structured text is a different story, as we'll see in a moment. A clear, confident American male technical narrator for a software engineering video. Warm, engaging, measured pace. Crisp articulation. Cartoon style. A red panda chef with bold outlines and flat colors. The character design is consistent and genuinely charming across all 3 variants, with clean line work and expressive faces. Turbo simplifies the background slightly, but keeps the style intact. If anything, the 3 results look like frames from the same show, which speaks to how stable the style prior is. Watercolor Venice. This is one of the strongest modes. Real wet-on-wet washes, color bleeding into the paper, and untouched white highlights that read exactly like reserved paper. The gondola and architecture stay coherent inside a genuinely loose painting style. RL has the most polished composition. Turbo's edges are slightly harder, but any of the 3 could pass as a human painting at a glance. Impressionist oil. A wheat field under a storm, painted with thick impasto strokes. The swirling cloud work is the highlight here, with visible directional brushwork and warm against cool contrast, straight out of the plein air playbook. Turbo actually commits to the boldest, chunkiest strokes of the 3. Art styles are a clear win for this model across every variant. Here come the first cracks. An infographic of the water cycle with 4 labeled stages. The layout, icons, and pastel palette are exactly right, but read the labels. Everation, evidation, condemnation. every variant misspells at least half the words, and Turbo is the worst of the three. The model draws infographics beautifully, but cannot reliably spell inside them. For real infographic work, you would still overlay the text yourself. Back to a strength, notebook doodles. Ink, coffee cups, cats, stars, and speech bubbles on cream paper. All three are charming, with confident pen lines and believable crosshatch shading. Turbo even frames the notebook on a desk with the pen lying beside it. RL sneaks in a cat-eared coffee cup that is honestly the best drawing of the set. When no text is required, the model rarely misses. A 3-panel stick figure comic about debugging. The visual storytelling works. Panels, laptops, error boxes, and a triumphant 3 a.m. celebration all read instantly. But the hand lettering gives it away. Base writes something like, "Pof Germer no last," and Turbo isn't much better. RL comes closest with an almost readable programmer bug. The comic structure is there. The captions need a human. And this is the clear failure mode, a software architecture diagram. The boxes and arrows look professionally drawn, but the logic is broken in all three. Base duplicates client and database in random positions. RL leaves boxes completely empty and grays others out. Turbo invents components like load server and API saltzer. The requested client to load balancer to API flow never materializes. Diagrams that must be semantically correct are simply not something you should ask a pixel model to lay out. Part 2. Image editing. Same packed transformer, but now each sample carries the target plus clean reference latents, and only the target gets denoised. We gave all three edit variants 6 instructions over the same source photos: background replacement, style transfer, adding objects, season changes, restoration effects, and a 2-image blend. Background replacement. Take this dog and put him in a sunflower field at golden hour. The dog's identity survives perfectly in all three: the mottled coat, the amber eyes, even individual whiskers. The new backgrounds are dense, backlit, and believable, with rim light that matches the new sun. Base cuts the fur edge slightly harder. RL and Turbo blend it more naturally. This is exactly what instruction editing should look like. A clear, confident American male technical narrator for a software engineering video. Warm, engaging, measured pace, crisp articulation. Style transfer on a whole photo collage. Turn 11 food and travel photos into one watercolor. Every tile is repainted while the grid layout survives untouched. The interesting result? Base comes out faded and washed, almost to pastel. RL keeps a bit more body, and Turbo, at 1/10 of the time, actually produces the richest, most saturated watercolor of the three. Distillation seems to have preserved the style prior remarkably well. Adding an object, a red knitted scarf around the dog's neck. The knit texture is fully rendered, with visible ribbing and natural drape, and the background carpet stays pixel stable. Base wraps it in a tight loop, while RL and Turbo let the ends hang more naturally. Fur overlaps the fabric correctly in all three. Localized editions like this are reliable across every variant. A bigger ask? Turn the indoor scene into a snowy winter day. Base and RL fully commit, replacing the room with a snow-covered forest and even dusting snow onto the dog's fur. Turbo reveals its 4-step limit here. It adds convincing snowfall and a snowy floor, but keeps the original carpet hanging on the wall behind the dog. A funny half-indoor blizzard. For large scene rewrites, the extra steps of Base and RL genuinely matter. The reverse of restoration. Age a modern collage into a 1920s sepia photograph. All three deliver aged paper tone, film grain, scratches, and creased corners, while keeping every tile recognizable.
The results are nearly identical, which makes Turbo the obvious pick at under 4 seconds versus 15. Degradation and film emulation effects appear to be fully baked into even the distilled model.
The hardest test? 2 reference images. Headphones on a yellow background and a teal hair clip on neon marble, with the instruction to blend the object from image 2 into the scene of image 1. All 3 produce a coherent, well-lit composite, but look closely at the rolls. They mostly moved the headphones onto image 2's neon marble instead of bringing the clip into the yellow scene. Base at least keeps the clip visible beside the headphones. Mechanically, the blend is seamless. Semantically, the model tends to confuse which image is the scene and which is the object. So what does all of this cost on a single RTX 4090? Text-to-image at 1024 squared, base averages 8 seconds, RL aligned 5.5, and turbo 1.4. Editing runs heavier because reference latents ride along in the sequence, around 12 seconds for base and RL, and 2.5 for turbo. Peak VRAM stayed between 17 and 18.5 gigabytes, so everything fits comfortably in 24 gigabytes. Bottom line, Turbo is roughly 5 to 6 times faster, and outside of large scene rewrites, you rarely see the difference. Want to run it yourself? 4 moves. 1. Create a Python 3.12 virtual environment and install Torch with CUDA support that matches your toolkit. 2. Install the pinned requirements, then the Mage-Flow package. 3. Build Flash Attention last with build isolation off so it compiles against your installed Torch. 4. Call Mage-Flow with a prompt or Mage-Flow edit with a reference image. The checkpoints download from Hugging Face automatically on first use, and a Gradio web app ships in the box.
If you like this video, please subscribe and share. Thank you.